Any modern society needs a functional legal system to work. Each country has its own legal system which governs how the law is made, interpreted, and enforced. They're all different in their own way, but jurists have noticed that some are closer to others or even took inspiration from the same source. These legal systems are therefore classified into various categories. Grouping countries into legal systems does not necessarily mean that all their laws are identical, but we can classify them because they share similar characteristics and principles. For example, the main feature that we found in civil law systems is codification. The two most widespread legal systems are civil law and common law, both originated from Europe, but each has its own distinctive features. In this video, we will take a brief look at each system, how they came to be, and see how they differ from each other. The oldest, most popular system is civil law. It was largely inspired from ancient Roman law, particularly Justinian's Corpus Juris Civilis enacted in the 6th century. Justinian sought to restore the legal system in the empire and appointed a committee to gather the existing sources of Roman law. Its influence in Europe was originally of secondary importance during the medieval and modern times. Roman law was mainly used to fill up the gaps of local customs and laws. Roman law made a comeback thanks to the work of legal scholars in both Italy and France in the 11th century. They analyzed and interpreted the Corpus Juris Civilis in an attempt to revive Roman law in Western Europe. Their work was enough to influence French and Italian customs and canon law. We may say that corpus has become a law generally enforced in these countries. But even then, it is not possible to say that civil law was the norm. It was only with the French Revolution that civil law system took off in popularity. There have been numerous attempts to codify France's legal system in the past, a notable one being the various codes issued by Colbert, Louis XIV's infamous minister, but the most influential was undoubtedly the French Civil Code, or Napoleonic Code as it was later referred to. This started the trend in civil law in continental Europe. The Napoleonic Code was adopted in many countries occupied by the French during the Napoleonic Wars. It presented the advantage of effectively ending feudalism, as well as unifying a country's legal system. The influence of this code was not limited to continental Europe, as it was adopted in a number of Latin American countries. The influence of the Napoleonic Code was later diminished with the introduction of the BGB, the German Civil Code, which later inspired even the Japanese Civil Code. The whole of Europe was converted to the civil law system, with one notable exception, the British. The English common law originated in the early Middle Ages. In the period that followed the Norman conquest in 1066, the Anglo-Saxon had previously developed a body of rules dominated by local customs similar to what was used by the Germanic people of northern Europe. The Norman conquerors did not bring an immediate end to the Anglo-Saxon law. They had to accept local customary law to retain their power over the whole of the kingdom. But the creation of a centralized government and judiciary set the stage for the development of common law. The new kings of England have created a permanent court of justice and sent itinerant judges across the country to resolve disputes in provincial towns with the law of Westminster. The idea was to replace local courts with that of a king. By doing this, central power has effectively put local customs under control and managed to enforce a law that was common to the whole of England. The situation contrasts with that in France, where a monarch ruled a number of duchies and counties, each with its own customary law. This led to an early centralization of the justice enforced in England, centuries before other European countries. The common law system can be found in most places that the English colonized, such as the Americas, Oceania, and Africa. It is worth noting that none of these countries has adopted common law as their system willingly, since it was either imported by colons or imposed on the local populations. The differences between common law and civil law are numerous, but due to time constraint, I'm only limited to 5 minutes, we will only touch the surface of it. The main difference between the two systems is the role of precedent. A precedent is a legal principle that has been established by a superior court. In common law countries, precedents are binding, meaning that the judge presiding over a case must determine which precedent applies to the case. The judge must respect the precedent set by prior decisions on similar cases. This principle is known as stare decisis. This principle ensures that rulings remain consistent in similar cases. The situation is different in civil law countries. Civil law judges are not bounded to precedents, in fact, creating precedents in the way that common law judges do with case law is beyond their power. In civil law systems, the judge is only the mouth of the law, as Montesquieu puts it, meaning that the judges establish the facts of the case and strictly applies the written law found in codes. They do not create or formulate the law, they apply laws created and formulated by others, and their interpretation of the law is very limited. This could have been an introduction of an hour-long video on the differences between common law and civil law, but the rules being what they are, I've decided to end the video there. Thank you for watching.